Hello, my name is Alexander, and today I'll be talking about the tropical savanna for my Biome project. So we are going to talk about the characteristics of the tropical savanna. It is composed of dry, wet climate type that is caused by climate change, and changes in the climate causes the tropical savanna to experience those dry seasons. Seasons in the tropical savanna affect how much rain it receives, and it also affects vegetation. Animals around the area, however, humans use these seasons to plant crops. The adaptation of animals within the environment tend to show what types of organisms can adapt faster and reach a certain height in the food chain in order to survive. So what this shows of a dry, wet climate type, it tends to show how much rainfall or such as precipitation and temperature tropical savanna receives yearly, and that we'll be talking about like further on during the presentation. So we'll be talking about two different locations, Nigeria and Kenya. These are two groups of different locations, but the same biome type, showing the differences in both precipitation and temperature. How much rainfall each location receives and the amount of vegetation that grows there, animals that thrive or they suffer, depending on the wet and dry seasons. So the tropical savanna can adapt to its location but can be changed due to climate change. The monthly temperature of the tropical savanna is around 64 degrees Fahrenheit and can average about 50 inches of rain. Through the dry season in the tropical savanna for at least 5 months, the rain is reduced to less than 4 inches. So, as we can see from the first location of the wet and dry climate, Kano in Nigeria, we can see that during July and March, the precipitation and temperature is, nothing. They're not receiving any rainfall, so this is during the dry seasons. Starting April to June, you can see that the levels of precipitation start off low in April, but start reaching, higher and higher from May to June. Moving on from July to August, you can see that they're reaching at an all-time high of precipitation and temperature, so that's when there's a lot of rainfall, therefore crops being able to grow, and more vegetation means more food for the animals, for both carnivores and herbivores. But however, as we move on from September, to October, or maybe even to December, the levels of precipitation and temperature drop really low, and then that's when the dry seasons start all over again. But here's now the different location of the wet and dry climate, which is in Nairobi, Kenya. You can see that it does not reach as high as in Kano, Nigeria from, in August, but it does have an average amount of rate in rain, so precipitation and temperature throughout the whole year. Even though it is a little bit from July to September, they still receive some, and it's just like the different locations that may depend on the survival rate of animals near the area. So now we are going to talk about the formation of the tropical savanna. So the tropical savanna formation is made from grass being burned by people in order to plant the crops. Animals also help in the formation of the tropical savanna, where large animals strip the bark from trees and break down the tree ceiling in order to create the savanna. So as we go on talk about the formation, it is caused by humans that do burn the grasslands around the area, so causing the trees to burn, the grass and everything. However, animals do help within the formation of the savanna, whereas large animals such as the elephant and animals like the zebra, they break down the bark from the trees, and the elephants basically trample on the tree saplings or seedlings, where throughout time it will form into a savanna, a tropical savanna. So now as we move on, we're going to be talking about the faunas, so animals of a particular region, which is the tropical savanna. So around 40 different species that live in the tropical savanna, with some of those species being horned mammals, as we can see pictures like the elephant are right here. Some of these faunas may include both herbivores and carnivores, such as the lion, cheetah, wild dogs, and hyenas. Some of the herbivores may include elephants, ostrich, giraffes, and etc. And some of the carnivores are lions, cheetahs, and hyenas. There are also birds such as eagles and hawks where they can flourish in their environment, where they have a wide and clear view to look for prey. Being in the tropical savanna, it is an open space, so any animals that may have deceased or they have died for a while, eagles or hawks may tend to, look into the area and hopefully catch some prey. So now as we move on, we'll be talking about the primary consumers. So the primary consumers consist of herbivores such as zebra, rhinos, giraffes, and buffaloes. These type of primary consumers feed off vegetation like tree bark, crops, or any type of food that can give them enough nutrients to survive. Primary consumers can split into groups where they can determine how much food one gets in the environment, and splitting resources can help the survival rate raise rather than lower. So as we were talking about earlier about the climate change, the precipitation and temperature, without that much rainfall, you can't really expect vegetation to keep on growing forever. Only those types of plants that can adapt and survive within the environment. But animals do have to think about their survival rate and think about like food and stuff. So as we were talking about earlier, the zebras do chew off the tree bark. So that is when the time comes in where they really do need food. So they tend to eat anything in order to survive during those like rough times, which would be probably the dry seasons. So now secondary consumers. The secondary consumers are carnivores such as the lion, hyena, leopards, cheetahs, and many more, like I was talking about earlier. Carnivores feed from herbivores, but since there are many groups of carnivores, it's more like a first come first serve where the animals have to fight for survival or get lucky enough to get a prey with their hunting skills. So within dry seasons, wet seasons, sometimes you may expect animals to migrate depending on where most of the food is at. So for carnivores, they may move as a pack or by themselves, but they move towards where food is or whether they need to be in hibernation or etc. So now some of the threats that we face is that humans are turning these grasslands into farmlands for crops and cattle. So what that means is maybe homes of certain animals are being burned down by humans in order to create farmlands for themselves and for cattle. Sometimes fires are started to spread across the grasslands, affecting the animals' environment. Also, animals are hunted for their body parts ready to be sold. So affecting their environment, their wildlife, where they may live, they probably can't have a home anymore because it's most likely burnt down, which makes them into a prey going into enemy territory of carnivores or herbivores, depending on how each species takes it. There are also poachers that tend to target specific animals, causing the rate of that specific species to lower, which can affect the ecosystem. So with poachers, for example, rhinos, they tend to take away their horns. Some of them are just left there to die. With the help of rescuers, they are able to stop most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. But it can also cause, the way the rhino can live. It won't be able to protect itself due to its weapon being taken off from him. And that is all. So that is my tropical biome project. Thank you for your time.